Hello, hello. My name is Rukaya Khan. I am the founder of Smiletastic, a lifestyle coaching enterprise. We work towards building better relationships through conversational change. I've been into media for almost 20 years and have been doing Facebook Live videos on this page that you are right now on since the 1st of May 2018. And I thought at the end of 700 days, I thought, how could I give more value to my listeners? How could I bring more content and value to them? And so began Wise Wednesdays. And it's a true honor for us today on episode 16 to have with us Dr. Neeta Bhushan, somebody whose work I've been following and in love with for a while now. So when she said yes, I was floored. I was like, yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Neeta, for saying yes. Neeta is a global educator. She is an advocate of emotional health, mental well being. She's the founder of Global Grit Institute and the author of the best selling book, Emotional Grit. She has got a personal journey which really got me hooked. And without fumbling on my words, I'm just going to pass on the floor to her because I'm in awe of this woman. Thank you, Neeta, for being you.
Oh my gosh. Rukia, let's give it up for you. My gosh, being able to do, did you say 600 lives since
807 today.
807? Okay, I totally missed that. Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Thank
Oh
you.
my, let me just close one tab here to make sure that I can hear you perfectly. Uh, all right, here we are. Okay, apologies.
No
Technical
issues at
stuff.
all.
I wanted to make sure that everything is closed up so we don't get any interruptions. But yes, very, very excited to be here and to be with all of you. I know that we have something really special in store. And so, like Rukia was mentioning, um, I have had a lot of lessons in resilience and in building mental fitness, which is what I think a lot of you all are probably curious about, and more so just being unshakable through times of uncertainty, through times of stress, through times of just challenges. And I think this is a beautiful time to connect, which is why I think for many reasons why I definitely said yes to being part
Thank
of
you.
this conversation. So thank you for having me here with
Thank
your
you.
audience.
Thank you so much for coming in. Okay, so the most inevitable question: what does being unshakable mean to you?
Ah, yes. I think that I mean, as the definition would say, right, that you are just not able to become knocked down with no matter what that comes your way. Life can be happening in so many different directions as a parent, as a spouse, as a business person, as a leader, as somebody that's holding down the fort at home or even amongst your family members. That can be a lot of stress. Like even for myself, just thinking about it, I'm like, whew,
Whew,
uh, it's a lot. It's a lot
it
to
is.
take.
It is.
Um, but I think that throughout that and throughout all of the messiness or the chaos or the things and the expectations that may not go your way, that you can still find stillness, that you can still find peace. I don't like to use the word balance, and we can get into that.
Mhm.
But that you can actually still have a center for yourself, and that a lot of those things are not going to shake you, because the metaphor for me that comes up is you're just like a strong tree with really beautiful, strong roots that have really grounded you. And you might waver from side to side as a tree would, but it's not going to break you.
True. True. This is interesting that you bring that up because when I speak, I also use the metaphor of the tree, where your roots are the people, your value systems, and who you are surrounded with. And anything can influence you, and you sway, but you stay grounded, you stay put because of the values that you have. You said you wouldn't like to use the word balance. What's with that?
Yeah, so many people ask Neeta, how do you do it? How do you, I have for those of you who are just visiting with me for the first time, I'm a mama to a toddler, and those toddler ages, he's not even two, but the terrific twos, uh, and being in this, time period right now where schools are closed and you might have limited childcare, and both of us, my husband and I, we kind of tend to work from home or have like a home office, but you have to take turns, right? And usually in many households that may not be the case, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so a lot of times, and there was just an article that I read the other day that women are putting in, 32 hours more work during this time just to homeschool their kids, to, take care of household chores. And it's madness. And so for people to ask me on interviews, how do you balance it all? And I say, balance is BS. And the reason why I say that is because I think that, just like by using the metaphor of the tree, you have to be grounded and rooted in yourself, because can you swim through the periods of chaos while there's, things being thrown at you, somebody screaming, crying, kicking, and you still need to focus and get something done, or at least the one thing that you can get done in that day. And can you be just peaceful with yourself? And that obviously has to do with self-care, communication, boundaries, and being okay with, maybe for 3 days, you may not get a workout that you normally do for an hour or 30 minutes. Maybe it's just one walk around the block and you take your kid with you and count that as something, right? So being grateful for those moments, but being able to see the light through the end of the tunnel. Because if you hold yourself to the standard of, yes, I can have this balance, yin and yang flow every single day, you are really the one that's going to be utterly disappointed, because life is just that. You're going to have moments where you have days where you're going to get half of your to-do list done, right? And then most of the days it's probably not going to happen. But knowing that it's going to fluctuate like that, I think just gives yourself so much more flexibility and flow and ease, where you can skate through those periods and even rocky times that kind of, tend to come in our lives.
Hmm. So we have Cindy watching. We have Sharon, who says hi, and Cindy says hi, Rukaya and Dr. Bhushan. Uh,
Hi,
Sharon
Cindy.
says, how could you avoid situation that's part of life?
Yeah, no, I'm so totally understand this. I am not trying to avoid any situations at all. I think it's, just like a tree, right? We're going to use this metaphor the entire time.
Let's do this.
A tree can't really dodge the wind that's coming, right?
Nope.
What happens is, the wind literally gusts over you. So many times during painful moments in our lives, we have to go through it. There's no way of really masking things. And a lot of times in our culture, Desi culture, South Asian culture, we're taught, and I was definitely taught this, being born and raised with a Filipino mom and an Indian father. Um, all of the things that were uncomfortable or weren't really or shouldn't have been talked about in our household, were just shoved under a rug. So something would happen, we wouldn't process it, we wouldn't talk about it, I would get in trouble, or something like that, and then we would just shove it under a rug until the next big blow up, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think that utilizing that, and of course it's a big part of of my story. Life has happened in many different shapes and ways and forms, through loss, through cancer, through domestic violence. And I think through a lot of those circumstances and instances, we have life that happens to us. But I think the saying that I teach a lot of my students who come onto our virtual campus and read our books, um, is that, the only way out is to go through and to really understand what was that learning lesson, what was the what was the pivotal piece throughout that. There's a really amazing saying by the Stoics and the Stoic philosophy, which has been coming back into my field house just even in the last year, and even just becoming a mother, because the Stoics were really well known for not showing emotion, right? That's why they're called Stoics. And of
Yeah.
course, I'm a big advocate of emotional health, and I'm like, wait, how can you not? So for my own research, I wanted to study a little bit more about them and how they thought. But they did have, a saying, and the saying was, it's called amor fati, which is in Latin for love your fate, which they believed that for all of the things and the battles that they went through. And this is like, Roman times, right? I think the biggest Stoic philosopher that we probably know is like Marcus Aurelius, right?
Yep.
And so he talked about being able to love your fate, and this whole idea that life happens, things are going to not go your way, things are going to get tossed at you, and cut you from side to side, and really what they believed and what he believed was to love what happens, and that it's happening for you.
Hmm.
And so it's a lot of really good gems that we can even utilize in our lives right now, where, okay, what is that silver lining, what is that, what is that moment, what is that learning lesson that I have to learn through this? Am I attracting some of these things? What can I change within myself, and how and what or who do I need to surround myself with, so that I can get into a better state? And it's only myself that can control my states and my outcomes. And there was something that I posted today on Instagram, Ruki, I don't know if you were able to check it out yet, but it was, there's a meme where it was, the things that you cannot control, like other people's opinions, their judgments, if they like you or not, if they're going to like your next book or not. But then the things that you can control is your reactions to
Yeah.
them every single time. And you can control who you surround yourself with. You can control what the outcome that you want something to be, just because you've chosen a different level of an emotion to process. So
Yep.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes. So uh, I think that we always get stuck in a situation because we're constantly asking the wrong questions. We're constantly wondering why things are happening to us, and why we're not part of that journey called life. Um, I th- it was around 2000 in August. I stood before the sink, a pile full of dishes, achievement, another gathering at home. I stood there in the afternoon and I was just asking myself and I ended up asking myself that very profound question. There must be more to life than diapers and dishes.
Yes.
Yes, there must be more to life than diapers and dishes. My daughter had just started school, my older born, and my son was just around 8 months old. And that's when I started writing for the local newspaper. Flash forward 17 years, and I found myself standing on a TEDx stage, unprepared, not an orator, but with a message that I wanted to deliver. I spoke about the SMILE strategy. I said, you get from feeling stuck to unstuck using gratitude and acceptance. So you don't have to teach anybody gratitude, because since you're little, you're taught to say thank you and all of that. But acceptance, that's the one. So
Mm-hmm.
silence, smile comes in there. I say acceptance comes when you smile. Silence the mind, manage your attention,
So important.
identify the intention,
Yeah.
let things go, energize the possibilities.
So
So,
true.
so that's what the smile strategy is all about. And segueing into the power of your story, because we feel that we're part of the story. We feel that someone else is in charge of our story. But isn't it that we are ourselves?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, many times when situations and circumstances happen, good or bad, you could have had an altercation at the grocery store yesterday or something like that, right? You get to choose if you want to A, react to that, B, let that even be part of who you are, C, take the learning lesson from it and share whatever that learning lesson was. Getting the vegetables, not getting the vegetables, right? Or getting the chips and not getting the chips, or whatever that is, right? And I'm using a very, very basic example here,
Yeah.
but I think it's something that everybody can use as being tangible, because there could be certain situations in your life, right? If there's a breakup that happens, a split that happens, from even to really monumental things, a loss happens, you lose a job, maybe you have a career change, maybe you have to leave your home country for whatever reason, and you're looking to relocate. These are really monumental things. And so you get to choose which parts of your stories actually define you, and whether or not you are kind of ready to, and I kind of utilize this term as being a term for giving it to others. Like when things have happened, and usually they're kind of like the things that are really not in our control, right? A betrayal, a lie, a loss. A lot of times we take it within our hearts, and it was such a big heartbreak, and we have to take the time that it needs to really process. But when that story is ready, are you going to forgive, right? Because the word forgiveness, right, is also being able to allow yourself to really let go of that hurt, and in fact kind of close the chapter even on that story to really move on. And it really allows you to move on. So the term forgiving is that story forgiving for other people, right? So that they
Ooh.
can actually learn from what you've been through. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so and it's fascinating when I've utilized forgiving as a way of giving your story to others when you are ready. I'm not saying that everyone is ready at all times,
Hmm.
but there's like a particular point in that journey where sometimes the hardest things that have happened to you can be somebody else's biggest medicine or biggest, catalyst for growth. And in that moment, then that means your story is forgiving for other people. And that is really beautiful.
Absolutely. Whoa. I never saw it that way. Thank you. That was powerful.
Yeah.
So yes, it takes time. You need to be kind to yourself, especially when you're going through a loss, especially when you're feeling a bit of a challenge. The rush to be normal is just overwhelmed. It's not fair. Um, in October 2017, the plan had been to drop the children off in Australia, meet my daughter, and then focus on myself, because the children leave the nest, it's time for me, is what I thought. But then man plans and God decides. That's around the same time when dad fell ill, and I had to fly out from Brisbane to be by his side in India. We lost him, he passed on.
Mm.
And that became the toughest time for me, where I had to, just I did things because I had to tick them off my to do list, but really wasn't living them or being them, doing them for my soul.
Mhm.
But in April, gave myself some time, and then in April I went to meet the kids again, and my on a bus ride, my son asked me this question. He says, "So, Ma, what have you been up to?"
Mm.
And my first defense mechanism was, "I'm your mother. You're not supposed to speak to me like that." And he said, "All of that is fine, but what about accountability?"
Your son said this.
Yes,
Oh, wow. Wow.
yes,
Smart boy.
yes, absolutely. And so I was like, this is something I cannot deny. This is something I've taught them, and I can't go back on my own word. As a mom, you have a responsibility. So I sat down and made a list of all the quotes I had of my own. I'm a bit of a chatterbox. So I have my own one liners, and I sat and made a list, and that's where the 550 something odd RK codes came up, and I said, okay, how do I make the most of this? Came back to UAE, and then again began to feel empty inside because the house was empty. I was back on my own. And so I thought, how could I push myself to start, at least wash my face and get out of bed? Because I probably face the world, right, when you're doing a Facebook Live. And so that's how that's how the video started. And there have been times when I've switched it on and just started crying because it was a bad day. It might have been Dad's birthday. It could have been anything that was upsetting me. So just having that strength to be vulnerable gives the others room to say that, okay, you don't have to be powerful all the time. You don't have to be in control all the time.
And in those moments that you were going live and crying to your audience, I'm sure that was like the most cathartic for you in terms of healing your father's loss.
Yes. And I mean, just moments of feeling alone, feeling lost, feeling scared, not knowing what's going to happen next. I put up the quote because I know it has to be done. But when it's time to do it, you just like inching to the screen and switching on, and you just can't stop. So it was a different experience, but people have been really kind. So, yep, thank you. So that's what we were talking about, the power of your story and the time to tell it, the time to say it. And we have comments that have come in. Sharon says, as you said, we are holding the fort. When we have too many things on your plate, doesn't it just drain you mentally and physically?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the first step of understanding, Sharon, that's a great question, because I think that the first step of really understanding all of the things on your plate, right? That's your awareness. And awareness is the first step, because we can go on and being oblivious, right? Nothing phases me, nothing, I've got this. And then boom, you hit burnout because you haven't turned on your own kind of your shields, and you haven't like opened up your shields to say, okay, yes, this week is going to be a heavy week. I don't have help. Kids are not in school. I'm going through X challenge and Y challenge and Z challenge. And you already mentally prepare yourself because this is going to be a tough week, right? Or having the full awareness that, I don't think I'm going to be making this deadline on time. There's just no way. I feel super depleted and super exhausted. Maybe I should ask my executive, my boss, my manager for an extension here, because that's not going to be my best work, simply because I know and I'm aware that I'm not going to be able to give it my 100%. And it's interesting. So a lot of times, as women, I'm guessing the majority of your audience are females.
Yeah.
I think for us, we want to be martyrs. We want to be able to save the world. We want to be able to save everything, and we can, right? There's
Yeah.
notion that we can, but should we? Because at the sake of ourselves, we're the ones kind of spent at the end of the day. In this time period that we're in globally is a really big and huge example of this. I've been on all of these different chats and panels, interviews with all these different people, and when I'm talking to women focused groups just like you guys, these are the things that come up because we cannot fill from an empty cup, right? We cannot fill up other people from an empty cup. There's no way that we can keep on going if our tank is empty. And the first thing to really be aware of is to check in. And that's what one of the key components of one of my books that I wrote, Emotional Grit, that kind of spearheaded, my whole walk and inside of this industry is really being able to understand and to be able to check in with ourselves daily if you can. And this is a 1-minute check-in that you can do every single day, which is, how am I feeling? Right. And these are, if you follow any of these like meditation apps or anything like that, they will have this checkbox. I think on Headspace, they have this like prompt that comes up where it says, how are you feeling today? But for me, I call it, here's this emotional regulation check-in, where if you are one to orate or speak, because you're an extrovert and you need to kind of talk to somebody, speak into your phone. Record yourself, speak into your phone, and just let it out. If you need that time and that minute, go to your car away from everybody and do that emotional check-in. If you're better off in the shower doing it with loud music, these are just what I call, your four moss. And I can get into that in a little bit, but basically it's your emotional grit toolkit every day where you can just check in with yourself. If you're a busy mom, 1 minute is all you need. But that's the idea, is that so many of us, we just go through on autopilot. I'm sure you guys have all heard of, this notion where we get in our car and we're doing the excuse me we're
Yeah.
doing the exact same route every single day. So sometimes we don't even know that
Yeah.
how did we get to our office, because we're
Yeah.
driving the same direction, or we get to the grocery store and we take that same route every day. And sometimes you forget, like, wait, I was so in my head thinking about all of the things that I don't even remember driving from, my car to wherever I was, because I wasn't aware. I was just going on autopilot. So what if we are just practicing just a little bit more mindfulness in how we are feeling on a day-to-day basis, and then B, when we are feeling funky, when we are feeling sad, frustrated, overwhelmed, anxious, like there's too much and you can't breathe, take that time, take that moment. I mean, there's even times right now where my child, he's 21 months, right? And he wants to play, but then he's developing his emotions. And so the emotional spectrum could be, he's got a tantrum for 5 minutes and then he's like the happiest, bee, but then it goes back and forth. And so sometimes I have to say to him, okay, Ari, I need a minute. And I'm going to go in my little corner and he'll be crying, and that's okay. Right. Because I want to encourage him that his feelings are valid. But in order to encourage him that his feelings are valid, I have to recognize also
Validate
that
it.
my feelings are valid as well. And
True.
then of course, starting to have that conversation, even with our littles, at that age. So yeah, there's so much that I can share, but I hope that kind of gives just a little bit of a glimpse. Is emotional check-ins. We need that, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually, to really reflect, think back, and really internally assess. For some of us who are so busy, this is kind of like our internal quiet time that replenishes ourselves to be able to do all the things that we would like to do on a daily basis.
True. True. Cindy says, as the prayer says, accept the things we can't change, courage to change things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Super.
So good. Couldn't agree more with that one. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Tell us about the emotional grit toolbox, please.
Yeah. So, just a little bit of context for those of you kind of watching me for the very first time. The whole, I think my whole journey was really sparked by, my own lessons of resilience. I had to grow up really early and fast, right? At 10 years old, I was a caretaker to my mom who was diagnosed with breast cancer. And then, basically she had a 6-year battle with that. So in and out of hospitals, in and out of ICUs, which are called intensive care units, here in the US.
Yes.
um,
Yes.
and she lost that battle when I was 16. And so, because my father was traditional Indian Punjabi man, he was lost. He was lost because he lost his wife, his rock. And not only that, he had seen her kind of succumb to this for those 6 years. And in that time, I had to step up. I had to take all of those responsibilities as my mom would do, right? I knew how to make chai when I was like 10, and still kind of entertaining the family friends and the families that would come over for chai, and just kind of see how we were doing as a family. But all of those things kind of rested upon my shoulders.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any better because I was trying to fulfill this role, and even, this happiness for my father, who was just kind of like ailing. And then a year later, my brother, who had asthma, he literally collapsed in front of our eyes from an asthma attack, and he died instantly. They tried to revive him 3 times, and I guess he wanted to be, at peace with my mom. He wasn't sick, and so that was a huge shock, and really sent my father to a really deep depression. And that left myself, my father, and my youngest brother, who was 13 at the time. Um, and it was a really tough time. It wasn't easy, to say the least. And I think that, not only that, but then a few years later, my father, we would learn that he would have stage 4 lung cancer. And so before I was 19, I had lost my mom, my brother, and my father, all to these, um, medical diseases. And so I had no choice. I had no choice but to come up with what I'm going to, show you and share with you today, because the only choice that I had was going through this really, really what seemed like a very, very dark tunnel, very sad tunnel. Was just, there was so much grief, there was so much trauma. Yet I still had to get good grades, because I
Yeah.
knew that in my mind, the programming was educational drive and success would make my father happy. Right. And
Mhm.
so even after my parents had died, it was like, okay, I'm going to make them proud. I'm going to make them so proud, because I know they're watching over me. And, you're just, you go into this, like, this fight mode, and everything is kind of, it's almost like the world is watching. That's really what I felt. Uh, and I mean, fast forward, 10 years later, I would find myself into a really, really big soup, which meant that I would get married. And it would be to someone that would teach me a lot about unconditional love for myself, because at that time I was just trying to recreate a family that I had lost. Right. And so
Mhm.
even the partners that I picked and relationships that I was in was probably not the healthiest. I didn't have that relationship with myself. And I'm sure many of you moms and women watching, you're like, I know exactly what that is. And for me, that partner was abusive in every way. And I really had to make a very tough choice to leave. And it was sporadic. It was, in the middle of the night. It was December 31st. So it was like New Year's Eve. So I look back at it now and I'm like, wow, that was like the pinnacle time. It's New Year's Eve. You're going to start New Year's Day on a new, fresh footing.
And then you,
Obviously, not how it went. I went through a lot of internal struggle. And I mean, restraining order. I mean, just really trying to keep myself safe. On the meanwhile, I had this amazing practice as a cosmetic dentist, and I had reached all odds. So technically, I would have made my parents really, really happy. But truthfully, so I had not ever focused, not one time, to really focus on my grieving or even just myself. And so I think that this emotional toolkit, for Moss, is really kind of just what spurred out of that entire time period from my teens into literally, the time that I had my own awakening. Uh,
mm,
of really understanding that that wasn't the life for me. And so in the years to come, I would uproot everything. I would uproot my really successful dental practice. I would leave cross country to Silicon Valley. I
mhm,
would retire from the profession, and I would go on to speak, and even focus then massively on research for my first book, Emotional Grit. But So 4MOS really stands for the 4 M's are movement.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that, and research and science has shown us so much that if we are moving our bodies, we can move the energy in our bodies.
Yeah.
We know that exercise helps, it increases our endorphins, it increases our dopamine levels, which is kind of the,
Happy hormone.
it's the neurotransmitter, the love hormone that
Yeah.
we get from when we swipe uh, on our devices. But we can actually do this naturally, right? If we are able to move our bodies. And I'm not saying you have to get to the gym, an hour a day, but even 10 minutes,
That's true. Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm sure Rukia, you with 2 kids, you probably know all of that as well. So it
Yeah.
increases the feel good hormones, oxytocin if you're going to go with a buddy, but and you have your endorphins and your serotonin levels. So you have this amazing rush of incredible um,
Hormone.
neurotransmitters, these hormones that are pumped through your body when you are actually moving. Meditation. We already know that meditation is huge. If you are doing prayers, that is a form of meditation. If you are doing any sort of breath work or breathing, activating kind of your energy centers and adding like oxygen inside of your body, these are all research based.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys already know this, but it's a matter of I know this, but why am I not doing that? And I'll get to that in a second. But let me just finish this here. If you want to create your emotional grit kit, this is what you need to do. So we've got movement, we have meditation, we have mantras. And so for myself, and I'm sure you've had this too, Rukia, mantras, it can be whatever you want. It can be something that you've learned to say when you were a little girl. It could have religious undertones to it. For me, it was, I am brave, I am bold, I am beautiful. I'm brave, I'm bold, I'm beautiful. And I remember saying that at my deepest, darkest days when I had just initially left my first marriage. I needed to build my own self confidence back up again. And I needed to really focus on healing my heart. And that's really what my mantra was every single day without fail. And I didn't even know that this was a thing. I just knew that I needed to get into a positive state of mind because I had a team of 10 people that were waiting for me to brighten their smiles, in that day when I was a cosmetic dentist and I had
Yep.
to put my game face on and say, okay, I might be feeling internally just exhausted and distraught, but I'm not going to let my patients experience any of this. And so that's where those were the mantras. And then the last is movement. Sorry, music. And
Music.
music has really just you guys all know this. That's why Pandora and Spotify and iTunes music has just been such a from budgeons to any sort of beats. I know that binaural beats, there are certain frequencies that increase the brain waves of you getting into different flow states. If I'm going to talk a little bit about biohacking, and really get you in a positive or more clear state of mind. So even if you only have an hour to write, an hour to accomplish things, an hour to get any sort of work done, you can use different beats that will get you into a better state of mind to act on some of the things that you want to be more productive with. And I've known that it has been a huge thing for a lot of our clients. And then A stands for appreciation, gratitude. And I think that, it's so easy to not have a sense of gratitude. And you might say, okay, but what does that really do? But really, the science is there. It shows that if you are consistent with, and many of you probably already practice this already, but even just 3 things that you are grateful for every single day. My husband and I have been doing this since the day that we met, before we had our son. And we just say, okay, babe, what are your 3 big wins? And we say big wins, right?
Yeah.
But it's any sort of appreciation because, it's almost like the universe will pull even more great things and more joy to you. It's kind of like that daily reminder of, oh yeah, what did go well, right? Remember, like we have some of those days where we're like, oh man, this went wrong. My car broke down. I didn't have my food. My coffee spilled on my white shirt. And then boom, 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 boom. Like our energy levels go lower, 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 right? But if we just grab on to what were the 2 or 3 things that really went well, and even if it's I made my bed today, I brushed my teeth, nobody was crying, everyone ate their food. Like, I mean, if these are just like the little monumental things, that's just a game changer in just increasing our our vibrations just a little bit. And lastly, is sensory experiences, or just any sort of sense. We already know that aromatherapy and smells, and I don't know about you, but like anywhere that I go, I need to carry like my favorite essential oils, just to enhance anything that I'm feeling. If I want to feel a little bit more calm states, you know, scents are such a huge aspect, but there are things that you can wear, right? There's a reason why we have fuzzy socks that we wear if we want to feel cozy, or your favorite pajamas from like college that you won't get, you won't let go of, because it just makes you feel a certain way. And we forget that why we wear that, favorite lipstick, because
Mm-hmm.
it automatically transports us, or why we do our eyes in a certain way, right? There's a sensory experience around that, and we forget that, but it all helps elevate our moods, which is why a lot of times, either you wear makeup or not makeup, but it's not just to, look a certain way, but it's also to feel a
Yeah.
certain way. And even the clothes that we wear. I think before this, Rukia was trying to figure out, well, what color am I gonna, pick for
For the
the
banner.
banners. And yeah, because that is all part of the sensory experiences. Not only that, the people that you are around. So that is Formos. It is a lot. I do have a video on it on YouTube. You guys can totally check it
We'll,
out for free
we'll share it with
if
you.
you didn't get any of that.
No, I've written it down as you were speaking, and then I will also share the video. So yes, and I completely agree with you about fragrances. There is a particular shower gel and a particular aroma that my daughter uses, so I know exactly where to go to when I really feel like I'm missing her. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I know
Yep.
exactly what to do. Um, so thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. It was thank you so much. And we have Cindy who asked a beautiful question some time back. She said, does time truly heal all loss, or can one grieve for a lifetime? Is it a choice to allow time to heal? Thank you,
Ooh.
Cindy, for that question. Thank
So
you.
great question, Cindy. I never thought I'd be, and I still don't consider myself an expert on grief by any means.
Yeah.
I know I do have a lot of knowledge on grief, because that's really been a huge, factor in my life. And uh, yeah, and even as of 3 years ago, my great aunt, who was the one of the sole caretakers of my brother and I when my parents had passed, she had passed 3 years ago. And I think that um, I think time does heal,
Hmm.
but I also think the choice has to be, it's unique to the individual. And I think that, in holding on, what is it allowing you to do, right? And so for myself, I think that I could hold on to the pain,
Hmm.
especially if it's sudden loss. My brother was a sudden loss, and I think up until uh, maybe 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I would still get choked up, being on stage, and I'm like, oh, I thought I was, I thought I'm done with it, but it's really not. It is part of it is a lifelong grieving process. You're always going to be in that grieving mode, but I think that it shouldn't catapult you. Excuse me. It shouldn't break you in the sense that you don't want to go on living your life, because a lot of times, and there's 2 ways that we can respond to life's tragedies and adversities, right? We can close ourselves, because something really terrible and life altering happens, where we're closing ourselves down, and we're not expanding. We're holding on to that powerful, painful moment. And that then kind of has a hold on our entire life and what we choose to do. Um, but what if we are able to, celebrate life, right? And there are certain cultures, as I've been, researching more on death and grieving as I've gotten older, and just to shed light in some of these conversations, there are certain cultures where they celebrate death. They celebrate death because they're going to an afterlife, or they believe that their time on this amazing planet is done, and so they have a beautiful celebration. And and even going back to the Stoics, right?
Yeah.
If we go back to ancient philosophy, they prepared for their I think it's called mortarium, but they yeah, I think it's called, yeah, I'm like, I
Okay.
think I got that word right.
All right.
uh, Correct me if I'm wrong. But they prepared for their death because they wanted to make sure that people around them, that they had like beautiful ceremonies and that they were really honored and celebrated. And so I think it's different from culture to culture of how we're so afraid to talk about death and to talk about grieving. And I
Mm.
agree with you, Cindy. There's not a right way or a wrong way to do it, but I think we can be really aware of how there's two sides to everything, right? And
Yeah.
so to be able to kind of explore what that actually means and what that actually looks like. I know for myself, um, having the purpose and having the amor fati, as as they called it, really being able to embrace that, okay, this is part of my life and this is part of my life story, and I can choose to be a victim, or I can choose to thrive. And in that way, I knew that a lot of other people who have been through really terrible situations could benefit from thriving and understanding and knowing that their stories are not defining them. It's just the
Mm.
beginning, because they can actually pay ripple effects to somebody else. And so that's how I've chosen to share that and be able to process all of that. And I think the biggest thing is to be able to make peace with that. And so it's not that you're forgetting what's happened to you. I think now you're just reframing it in our minds. And psychotherapists have, talked a lot about that. When something really grave happens, sometimes you have post traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and sometimes you don't even, some people just block out a really terrible memory, like rape or things like that, or even a beating or something like that. But with psychotherapists, it's even being able to reframe that situation. And there are books even written how certain scientists have found that there are certain, like, just terrible, terrible things that have happened to certain people, murders and things like that. And the people are able to fully forgive and let that go because they're not going to allow themselves to let that instance define them. And I just think that, again, going back to the power of forgiveness, when we really
Forgiveness.
own our stories and understand it, we can then give to others and really pave the path for other people to really, get the gems from those stories.
Thank you. So I'm going to take you back to that tree where we were talking about being unshakable. So
Yeah.
there was this amazing question that came in, and um, from Gopalan, and he wrote, "How will I know or feel when I'm congruent to who I am? How will the realization manifest itself to me?" So when he, I think, and this is with reference to being unshakable.
Yeah. So Gopalan, I think that the biggest thing is, it's literally going back to the post today that I put
Uh huh.
on Instagram. And I like to keep things very simple and easy because I know that's one of the things that will make you remember this. And there's so much that we've been talking about today, and I think that sometimes less is more in terms of wisdom, in terms of, if there's one thing that you can take within yourself today, what would that be, right? And so self-discovery is, a lifelong process. And I think for you to be unshakable, the biggest things, and I think that can affect all of us, because as human beings, the biggest thing that we want to do is we want to be loved. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest desire that all humans have. And from a psychological perspective, um, in order for you to really get aligned with who you are, you have to understand that's a that's the plight of humanity and being human, right? We want to be loved, we want to be accepted, we want to be acknowledged, and we want to belong. And so it's huge. So these are our fundamental desires. Now, knowing that, okay, and still being able to stand up for what you believe in and not be swayed or be broken by other people's comments, those people who may or may not accept you or your ideas, because this is the biggest thing that happens to us, right? We lose our confidence, and we lose our unshakable vision for ourselves and our lives, because at 7 years old, our parents told us you have to be a doctor, an engineer, you have to get straight A's in school. I mean, being South Asian, that's kind of like part of the
I,
lingo.
I was
That's
I was meant to be a doctor, so just saying. There you go.
it's a big thing. So I think that once you can really appreciate what other people are saying, but
Yeah.
you still have your own beliefs, your own core values about yourself, the way you want to govern your life. And that's and there's and what your 2 or 3 non-negotiables are. Maybe it's honesty, maybe it's you know
Authenticity.
authenticity,
Yeah.
uh, and there could be a few more in there, and put it in the comments so that we can see it.
Sure.
Rukia can read them out to you. But do you have that, first of all? Second of all, have you spent time to figure out what is it that makes you happy, right? The Japanese have a term for this, and some of you who may already know my videos on YouTube. There's a video that I created around this, but the Japanese already have a term for this. And Ruki, you might know this. It's your ikigai. It's the
Yeah.
fulfillment of one's life. It's your ikigai. And basically, it's the intersection between your passion, your purpose, what you're good at, what you love doing, as well as how you want to leave a legacy in this world, and how you want to contribute to maybe helping other people, or maybe charity or things like that. But most of us have only been told what our parents see of us, or what we should not be doing, or what we should not be that we should be avoiding, because for the sake of our own good, because they know better. But then we get into our 30s and 40s, and we don't even know who we are, and we have a breakdown, we have a meltdown, we want to go, we want to change careers, and that's the beauty of the Japanese saying, your ikigai, and really discovering what that looks like. And you can do this at any point of your year, by the way. It doesn't have to be when a first, meltdown happens, but there's a reason why that in certain parts of the world, it's called the blue zones, where people live to 100 and over 100. And scientists have, termed this or coined this the blue zones. And one of the blue zones just happens to be in Okinawa, Japan, where the term ikigai was actually coined. Yes. And there's the largest number of centenarians, people living over 100, living in Okinawa. I wonder why. Because they're living their ikigai. So there is so much power to that, Gopi. So check that out. And that can be a first exercise, because, I mean, I don't know about you, but that is definitely a term of being super unshakable.
Absolutely. And being considerate of time, I'm just going to ask you one last question on authenticity, because we live in a world where we're looking for external validations, who saw me, who didn't, what happened, who acknowledged, who didn't. So what is it about being authentic to your face and not to your mask?
Oh, yeah.
I had to ask you that one.
I think I can teach an entire workshop on this in 3 days, and we still wouldn't be done with
Yeah.
talking about it because there's so many layers to that. And I think I shared with you, you know, all of my fears around leaving my first marriage, or maybe you can even extrapolate. There were so many fears. There was, what would the world think of me? What would my family think of me, that I wasn't strong enough to leave this, you know, this so-called marriage, or maybe I should just be in it and fight through it and stay strong, and you know, everyone adjusts, you know, adjust toward us, right, in marriage, or
Yeah.
whatever that they say, but at the sake of whose happiness, you know, and at the sake of whose safety. I have such a sweet, a really soft spot for, you know, a lot of the women who may not have a choice right now in quarantine around the world, and I know that there have been, you know, many cases of, you know, violence in insides of homes during this time, even more so because they have nowhere to go, and everyone's cooped up, and the stress levels are high, the anxiety is high, the overwhelm is high. And so that's such a really strong, you know, just movement for me right now. But going back to being authentic, it's really being clear on what you're not going to tolerate, what you are not going to tolerate. And if I'm talking to that one person who needs to hear this today, figure out what you are not going to tolerate.
Mm.
You know, and my husband and I just, you know, did a podcast on this, really about, you know, racism and colorism, and uh, being so clear about that we will not tolerate any of that kind of language, or that sometimes our elders say, and you know, many of you may already know this because there's so much tension in certain parts of the world around these types of things, and we believe and we stand for unity at all levels, at all costs, right? But if we're talking about our elders, and to really believe and take in everything that they say, and everything that they say is good for you at the at your expense, then really, whose life is it, and how long are you going to live that life for other people at the sake of your happiness? And yes, are you going to piss people off? People ask me this all the time on Instagram. Oh, but you know, I'm so afraid of what this person's going to say. You are going to piss people off. There was a time where my one bua, you know, which means dad's sister in Hindi, we didn't talk for years, because you know, there was, we just did not have, and I needed to protect my energy, and no matter what, I loved her so much, but I was willing to let her go. And I've actually written this in my book as well, that sometimes you have to let people go just for a little bit. And you're saying, well, there is no chance I can do that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying you have to figure out what's true to you, and how you can honor yourself in the truest way possible, because they will come around. My boy now and I, we have the greatest relationship. She's here right now, and she's, you know, helping take care of my son. And we have still times where we clash, our values clash, and things clash. But now, if that is coming up, I respectfully say to her, you know what, I'm not going to get into this conversation with you. And for those of you who are having difficulties setting boundaries with the people that you love, because you know, their 2 cents comes for free, uh, and a lot of it, right?
I
Then
love it. Yes.
you can choose what you are
Okay.
allowing to enter in your shield, your sphere, and in your, you know, your consciousness,
Yeah.
because remember, it is your life that you are living. And I know that most of us have grown into a society and a generation that we are so worried about log kya kenge. I know
Yeah.
that's a very, you know, common topic. But if you guys can remember just that what is it, that one thing that you are just, that is your non-negotiable, that you're just not going to tolerate. And I think that with all the unearthing and all of the things that have come up just this year of what we are going to tolerate and what we're not tolerating, I think it's definitely a reminder of, these are the things that we can control, and these are the things that really contribute to ourselves being unshakable, that no matter what, somebody else's opinion of you isn't going to matter, because your opinion should be the only one that matters.
True.
all
True.
day long.
True. Kasaji asks a question saying, why do people become uncomfortable with authenticity?
Mm. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, it just goes back to, are they still so programmed in their minds of having to please other people, right? Our culture, we're very a people pleasing culture. We think that we have to sacrifice our happiness. How many times did you hear your moms or your grandmother say, "Oh, I sacrifice my happiness for you kids, you kids, you kids"? I still hear that.
Oh
Uh,
God.
and
My life will always be like this.
right, and they don't do anything for themselves, right? I've been
True.
on shows where I'm talking to a lot of like older aunties, and they're probably like nannies now or daddies now, which means they're like grandparents now,
Yep.
and they're so unhappy, and I say, okay, well, here's the reason why: because you've lived your life for so many years for your
Mhm.
children, and you've completely forgotten about yourself. You don't even know where to start. Like, what is it that you like? What's your favorite color? And most of the time they couldn't even answer that, because they're like, oh, whatever my husband likes, I like.
Exactly.
It's perfect. It's okay. Like, or whatever he likes. So they're not used to choosing for themselves. They're not used to thinking for themselves. So even in your own, like, how we can change this
Mhm.
is so that we don't pass this on to our offspring, first of all. Second of all, we have conversations now with our elders, and we have, like, we ask them really real questions, like, what is it that you like to do? Maybe it's painting, maybe it's dancing, because we can still rediscover ourselves at 50, 60, 70, 80, and keep on going. Remember, the centenarians, the Japanese, there's something right there. The
Yeah.
blue zones in the world, right? The ikigai, if that's the one
Yeah.
word that you remember today, ikigai. And I think that's the one thing that, in our culture where we fail to forget is, okay, whatever he likes or she likes, and then you forget yourself
What
completely.
you like. Yeah. Yeah. Because you're constantly walking all over yourself. I think had I not asked myself that question, there must be more to life than diapers and dishes. I think I would have still been doing the dishes.
You could have been like a cranky, resentful
Angry nanny.
person, with your children now in college or whatnot. And we know some of these people, right? Bless their
Yeah.
hearts.
Yeah.
But we know some of them who just are bitter at the world, and they blame everything on their kids, or they get angry at even the littlest things, or they try
At
to
the in-laws.
control you even. But the thing is they just can't control themselves, and they haven't figured out an outlet to find purpose again. So I think that's the biggest thing that we can do is, if you do have an elder or person like that, is direct them to this interview right
The
here.
video. Yeah.
Have them
Absolutely.
watch the replay with Rukia.
So thank you. We have touched the hour. Thank you so much. We've got comments coming in. I'll just read them out to you and acknowledge the listeners. Um, we have Cindy who says, "You're an amazing woman. What a painful growing up. Now I see what grit is." Sharon says, "I'm so sorry you had to go through so much." Sharon has a question, but we're out of time. Building resilience, what's the science behind the methods? Kosaji asked, mantra like an affirmation.
Yeah,
And,
totally.
yeah. Dale says, putting aroma is great if you put them on your pillow to sleep.
Ooh, yes.
He says, I
Even better.
grieve. Yeah, I know. I love doing that too. I grieve when I hear certain songs come on the radio. And the desire to be loved is difficult when you're finally alone and the family is gone.
Mhm.
Abdul Karim says, great information of Ikigai. And Cindy says, boundaries are so important. Listening to peers is not healthy for confidence. Yes, it isn't. So you got to listen to your own self, take ownership.
Or surround yourself with people that really just are constantly supporting you,
Yep,
and are really loving you just who you are right now.
absolutely. So I am really loving you for who you are. Thank you so, so much for coming on the show. It was an honor, an absolute privilege to have you. Thank you, Neeta, for your time. I know you keep very busy. Thank you once
Thank you
again.
all for listening, and Rukia, just amazing,
Thank
amazing
you.
platform you have, and so excited that we were able to do this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And those who tune in on replay, do leave in comments, and I will post how you could get in touch with Neeta for follow ups. Thank you very much. Thank you, and good night.